Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the No BS Homebuyer Live series, where we are breaking down the home buying process into simple steps so we can take you from thinking about buying to actually buying a home. So, today we are talking about finding the right neighborhood. And one thing I want you to think about is you can change a lot about a home. You can break that sucker down to its bare bones or tear it down to the ground. But the one thing that you can't change is where it's located. So let's talk more about location and buying and why that really matters and why to think about it ahead of time rather than, after you've already bought a house. So most buyers start by just looking at houses. They don't really take much into account where it's located and what kind of a lifestyle that creates for them. So, really, the smarter move is to think about where do I want to live and then finding a house that matches your lifestyle and budget within those areas. Because a great house in the wrong location will never feel right. So, let's talk about the three factors that we kind of have to balance when finding a home and finding the right neighborhood. Really, it comes down to these things. Budget. Different areas are going to have different price points. And so we need to realistically go into your search knowing these things. Additionally, when you're looking at different budgets and price points, you need to take into account that taxes can be different in different areas. So really, when you're running numbers on one and comparing it to another, you got to look at those tax differences because different areas really can have a different impact. Additionally, price per square foot may be higher in another location, and you might not look at that directly. You might just be looking at the overall price of the house and then noticing, like, hey, this older part of town only had 1,000 square foot houses. But this newer part of town, they've got 2,000 square foot houses, but the prices, might reflect differently depending on how the neighborhoods are valued. Additionally, different neighborhoods could have hidden costs that aren't necessarily at the forefront of your mind. Think like HOAs or certain upkeep that you have to do because of the HOA, or if they have certain services included in the HOA. So just think of those things also when you're considering these neighborhoods. And those all go into the budget discussion. And sometimes you're not necessarily choosing between houses, you're choosing between zip codes because one zip code may really fit your lifestyle and your budget, and one zip code might not. So you got to really take that into account when you're searching. And then, in addition to budget, you really want to make sure it fits your lifestyle. This is where a lot of people don't dig deep enough and then regret where they're living and want to move pretty quickly. In the place that I'm located, Lincoln, Nebraska, our location is not quite like a big city that has lots of suburbs. So really it's pretty easy to get from one area to the next within our town. Where I see most people make this mistake is they think they want an acreage, and then they find out that it takes at least 20 minutes to get to anything, usable. So then they realize that maybe the acreage life isn't for them or how much work it takes. And they work a pretty heavy duty, high hour work week, and they don't have time to take care of the yard, which acreages take a lot of mowing. So I want you to ask yourself, when it comes to your lifestyle thoughts, do you want walkability? Are you wanting a quiet area versus an active area? Like if you're in a downtown area that has a lot of maybe say bars or concert halls, is that what you want to be by? If you've got a couple of little kiddos like I do, I definitely don't want to be by that. I want to be in a quiet little neighborhood with a bunch of cute little grandpa and grandmas around. But it all depends on what you want for your lifestyle. And these are just things to take into account. And then other perks that you might want to think about are you close to restaurants? Are you close to parks? Are you in a certain school district that you're shooting for? These all play into that lifestyle factor and should be taken into account when you are shopping. So your home really should match your life, not just your budget. You got to take both of those into your mind when you're really searching. And then commute and convenience. This is kind of the third element. And this one can add up really fast. Your work commute, how long it takes you to get to school or daycare to drop off the kids or for you. And then just your daily errands, things that you do every day. If you're a coffee lover and you have to stop and get your coffee every day before you go somewhere, you might want to take into account how far the next coffee shop that you like is, because I know we're all loyal here to certain ones. So you just need to really take these into consideration. And what I do or recommend for my clients is, especially if they're moving kind of across town from where they are currently, is I recommend they get up really early, pretend that they're getting up from their new house, drive to work during the rush hour or during the times that they're going to actually be driving to work to get a feel, because you will quickly learn what you do and don't like when driving. If you have to go all the way through downtown, across and over, and you hit all of the construction traffic, you might rethink that this location actually will work for you. So test run it. It doesn't hurt. All it's going to do is prepare you. And I'm sorry you have to get up a little earlier, but get up earlier and go to your coffee shop on the way. But these are all things that I kind of want you to take into account when you're deciding on which location to do. Because if you know anything about like driving, a 10-minute Google Maps drive can quickly turn or feel like a 30-minute drive in real life. And we just don't want you to be disappointed by that once you spend probably your largest life savings on this new house. So just take these things into consideration before you're officially buying. And that kind of leads us into, there are trade-offs to be made, and no one loves to hear that. It's not fun thinking, oh, I'm going to be, putting up a bunch of money and then I have to, kind of give and take in certain areas. Yeah, no one really likes that. But in reality, you're usually not going to get all three of these things: price, location, and features. You're normally going to get one or two, and then you're going to kind of have to, negotiate with yourself on the other one. So when you're choosing between these, you really want to choose the two that matter most. For example, if you are wanting a better location that's close to work and easy access to all the things, you may be getting a smaller house because that location doesn't offer bigger houses without a large price tag. So just really take into account what you truly value and use that to your advantage to determine your location. So when we do this, we create clarity and it helps us prevent regret later. There really is that season of buyer's regret. And you want to prevent buyer's regret as much as you can by doing little things up front and really thinking about what it is you want and what you need for your lifestyle. So a couple of common mistakes that I see buyers do all the time when buying a house in regards to location is falling in love with it without even considering the location. They saw this house come up on their favorite app, Zillow, the MLS search, whatever it is, and they're like, oh my God, I love this house. I have to go see it. They go to it, they fall absolutely in love with it, and then they realize they are 40 minutes away from work. They're 40 minutes away from their family who comes and watches their kids every single day. They are not exactly on a convenient route to get on the interstate or to go anywhere, and the nearest grocery store is not their fave. So they love, 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 love this house and they really want to buy it, but everything else about it really doesn't match their to-do list or their want list. So in those instances, when they do buy it, I find that they come back a lot quicker and they're like, we really love the house. If we could pick it up and move it to a different neighborhood. And sadly, you just can't do that. I mean, you can, but it's going to be way more expensive than you really want. So that's probably one of the biggest things I see with location issues. Other things kind of playing into that would be understanding the commute impact. Again, if you are looking at houses at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday, that's going to be a lot different than 5 p.m. on a Friday. Or 8 a.m. on a Monday. You really want to take into account these commutes before you buy the house. If you're by trains and they have a certain schedule going and you always run 5 minutes late and that train goes at 9:05 and you got to be on it at 9, well, you're probably going to hit the 905 a lot. So just really think about these things before. And that's why I always encourage my clients to test run it. And then additionally, ignoring lifestyle fit, kind of going back to living on a farm, wanting an acreage, but you have no time to take care of any of the acreage activities. You want chickens, but you work 80 hours a week. Honey, you don't have time for chickens. And you're going to be really disappointed when you get those chickens and then they all die because you can't take care of them. So you really got to look at where the location is and does it actually fit in with your lifestyle? And then stretching your budget too much for the perfect location. There are give and takes in real estate, and it doesn't matter what price range you're in, there will be a give and a take. And I never encourage my clients to go beyond their budget, even if it's the perfect house, because we want you to be building wealth. We don't want you to be house poor and all of your money be in your house, because if all of your money is in your house, you don't have money to enjoy actual life, which your house is supposed to be helping you enjoy your life. So please don't stretch your budget just because you found the perfect area, unless you're really going to get some really awesome appreciation or you're building in some really great equity that you can tap into later and are prepared for that. You really shouldn't be stretching your budget for anything unless you absolutely have to. And you need to know that going in. So don't fall in love with a house you won't love living in, and take into account all these different things, because all of these things together should be able to help you narrow down where exactly it is you want to be living, what kind of neighborhood, what things do you need to be close to. And with this, your realtor can absolutely help you with some of this stuff, but there are some things that they cannot help you with. And I want to go into a little bit more of what a realtor can actually help you with versus what they can't. So that way you're not like, well, I thought you were going to tell me all of these things, because legally there are things we cannot say, because I'll just explain in a minute. But let's talk about how to research your neighborhood. You need to be doing a lot of research yourself, because no realtor, no person can tell you what is great for you. You are the only person that can tell you what is great for you. And with that, the realtor can give you tips and tricks or ideas and thoughts of what they think would fit for you based off of what you tell them you value. But there's certain things they cannot advise on. And probably the most common one is this neighborhood safe? That is something they cannot advise you on, because one, it's very subjective. What do you consider safe? Like, I feel safe in the town I live in anywhere I'm at. I don't feel unsafe anywhere. But someone, that has maybe been mugged sometime might not feel safe in a certain area of town. And I'm not the one that gets to decide that for them. So if you want to decide on safe, there are different tools and resources your realtor can give you. And I'm going to touch on a couple of them so that way you can make these decisions confidently. But asking what is safe or what's good, it's all a subjective opinion. So they can't advise on those things. So in regards to safety or like crime data, I always recommend that you check like local police departments, crime mapping tools. Like, I really like Neighborhood Scout or crimemapping.com. Spot Crime is another one. And then additionally, like when we were searching for our house, I checked the National Sex Offender Registry because I wanted to know, if anyone was living in my neighborhood, because I was planning to have kids. So those are all resources that you can use to decide what you want to consider safe or not. And look at the different trends. Maybe one situation happened and that person is long gone. So, but if you see like a continuous situation happening in this neighborhood, maybe that isn't what you want. Like drug offenses, if you see continuous drug offenses in this neighborhood, well, you probably have a lot of drug dealers in the neighborhood. Other ones that realtors can't really give an opinion on would be school ratings. They might be able to tell you like, oh yeah, our school system is like ranked nationally. But that doesn't mean anything about the specific schools. And for you to get that information, I would check greatschools.org, niche.com. Oftentimes the MLS, Zillow, or like homes.com have like a little school score that you can kind of look at the different ratings. But use those resources to ultimately determine. And then if a school is very important and you need to limit your neighborhood search based off of that school district, let your realtor know that. But they shouldn't be just saying, oh, you have to go to the school district. This is the one for you. you should be researching that and finding that out. Um, and then lifestyle and walkability, to find those things out, that's realtors are able to help more with those types of things. Like you say, oh, I have to live within 5 minutes of a bus stop. Okay, cool. We can, adjust a search to match that. But for these things that you're trying to look for lifestyle and walkability stuff, use Google Maps. It's got commute times that you can kind of check out, and you can set like what time you're going, if it's 9 a.m. or if it's 2 p.m. It'll give you a rough idea of how long it'll take in a car or even walking or biking. If you want to live on a bike trail, sometimes that's a really big deal. That is absolutely a possibility to add into a search. You can also check out walkscore.com if you're big into walking, and then also Yelp or like local reviews to see if the areas that you're looking in that neighborhood, if the food and the different amenities really meet what you're looking for. Look at those local reviews to see if that's kind of what you're thinking. And then your realtor really can help you out when it comes to the market and area trends. So they can't tell you what's safe and what's good, but they can tell you, hey, this neighborhood has been trending up in price and has appreciated well in the past. They can also help you understand how many days on market you should expect for a neighborhood. And again, like the appreciation patterns, like, we're actually seeing depreciation in this neighborhood. And you can even look up like rent to own ratios. A lot of times if it's a higher owner percentage, there's a little bit more care taken versus rentals. And that you can kind of see through like driving through the neighborhoods. But those are all things that you can look up. And if your realtor can't do it, they're going to let you know, hey, I appreciate you asking. However, I can't advise on that. That's a completely subjective matter. So now that you understand what is allowed and what isn't allowed through a realtor, I just want you to know that your realtor is there to help you, and the goal isn't for them to pick the neighborhood for you. You need to give them the information that you're wanting, and then they can help guide you and give you ideas for your ultimate decision on it. So when you combine all of your research and all of the research that your realtor can help give you, this is where you're coming up with a real plan and you can really start cooking. Now is when you can get those searches honed in on the areas that you're thinking, what fits your lifestyle, what fits your budget, and what kind of amenities that you are getting within that. So the goal isn't to find the perfect neighborhood that will never truly exist. It's to find the right one for you and your lifestyle. And the best neighborhood is the one that works best for you, not someone else. So your realtor can't give you the best neighborhood because it's not the best neighborhood for you. That would maybe be the best neighborhood for them or your sister or your cousin or your neighbor or your friend. You have to decide what matters and what you value in your life. So if you want help narrowing these things down or figuring out budget, lifestyle options, I'm happy to connect you with a realtor that can help you do that or give you the resources so that you can find those. But that pretty much wraps up this stream. If there's any questions, let me know in the chat. Otherwise, next week, we are going to talk about touring homes like a pro. So that way you are prepared and ready for that house visit and you know what to look for. So thank you again for joining me on the No BS Homebuyers Live series. We are taking the process into simple little steps so that way you can go from thinking about owning to actually owning a home. And I will see you next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.